We are live. Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the meeting of the September meeting of the Lehigh-Northampton Airport Authority. Would everyone please stand, face the flag, and pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So with that, would you please call the roll?
Paul Anthony.
Here.
Ann Baum. Robert Brooks.
Here.
Frank Facciano.
Here.
Don Gottschall. Justin Grimshaw.
Here.
John Hayes. Ron Heckman. Larry Hamburger.
Here.
James Irwin. Jeff Maskin.
I think Jeff was on.
Present.
Mike Stershek.
Here.
Jonathan Strauss.
Here.
Chris Worley.
Here.
We have a quorum, sir.
Thank you. The next order of business is approval of the minutes of the August 29th meeting.
Do public comment.
Oh, public comment. Do we have any?
Yes, sir.
Oh, we do?
Yes.
Ooh, scary. Go ahead.
So we do have a public comment from a Lauren Burkhead. She writes, the Lehigh-Northampton Airport Authority's decision to lease land to Majestic Realty is a disgrace. This is a
Is it what?
Is a disgrace.
Okay.
This is a peaceful residential community and is not a place for manufacturing. Our air will be polluted by diesel vehicles, bright lights, and noise. The view from our windows will be of tall concrete buildings and trucks. Please reevaluate your decision and allow the land to be used for something beneficial within the community and not warehouse manufacturers. That's it.
Any other comments?
No.
Okay, we'll move forward then with the approval of the minutes of the August 29th meeting. Do I have a motion for approval?
Make a motion.
Justin, second. Mr. Brooks? Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Approval of minutes passed. We're down to reports of committees, officers of staff, treasurer's report. Justin?
Mike is
Did I squeeze you out?
Todd, go ahead. For August 2023 financials.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Okay.
Go through the financials here. Always start off with the traffic. This is consistent with what we talked about, that we expected our traffic to kind of drop off a little bit in August. As we go into the fourth quarter, we pick up a little bit, but again, you can kind of see where we are. We are down 8% versus 19 and 10% versus last year for August. Year to date, we're still within a couple percent of where we were year to date 19 and year to date last year. When we show our load factors, this just really indicates that the seats that we do get, we do use. Year to date, we're about 87% on our aircraft traffic versus 84% that was in 2019. And you can see on the bus traffic down there that the American bus going into Philly is doing quite well, which we kind of expected. Comparing our traffic to all airports, the larger hubs are in more of a full recovery mode as far as seats, not as much as far as traffic, but certainly as far as seats. You can see that all airport seats are up 24%, but the throughput is only up 2%. For us, seats are down 11%, but our throughput's down a little over 5%. So again, we're using the seats that we get. We just don't have as many seats at this point. Again, when you compare us to our peers, we're doing much better than they are. So you can see where Harrisburg is there around the 15% mark as far as down. Scranton down 40%. So our 6 and 11 really seems pretty good, because most of these folks would trade places with us in pretty much a heartbeat. Looking at our numbers for the month of August, you can see that we had a favorable month. This was the first month that we did not take all of our cares. Some of the cares we pushed back, some of it because we talked about with the demolition kind of matching that up. And some of that's been pushed into next year, so we'll push some of that CARES into next year. About 300,000 of demolition that we stated for this year is going to be due next year. So and we're going to use CARES to pay for that, so the money kind of follows when we do that work. But you can see we had a good month despite of that. We had net income of 913,000. Always put up there, you know, I know you love this, right? But CARES and full staffing, just to kind of keep our eye on the fact that at some point we won't have CARES, and if we are at full staffing, what happens to some of our net income? That's a pretty big variance there. Year to date, same thing, we're doing quite well. Again, as far as where we were versus budget, that number is almost $5 million that we have in our projection. Actually, I missed one, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go back. Sorry about that. This is our full year to date. This is actual through August, we're about 4.9 versus our budget of about 1.9, so we're doing quite well. But again, a lot of that is the variance that we talked about with CARES. I mean, if you look at that number at full staffing, we get a lot closer to our budget number. But again, at least that number is positive with CARES, without CARES, and at full staffing. But again, you can see a lot of that's attributable to our expenses, our conservative number in some of our expenses, both staffing and expenses. But again, overall, we're doing better versus budget. You can see that we're not doing quite as well as we were last year, and a lot of that is attributable to our expenses. This is our projection, just as a reminder. This is where we think we'll end up for the year. We did this, we showed this last month, about a $5 million projection at this point. And that's assuming we're going to use the remaining part of our CARES. That could come down a little bit if we push some of that CARES into next year. Always like to make sure we have a nice streak. We're trying to break our record of 11 out of 12 months with positive net income that we had in 2019. So far, we're 8 for 8, so let's keep that streak going. And then we show our cash, even though Justin wants to spend all of our cash. You can see we stay above 300 for the next few months. But again, that's based on our 69.
I'm with you, just for different reasons.
But that's based on our 69,000 that we had budgeted for 2023. Obviously, that number is going to go up for 2024, but we should stay well above our 60-day threshold that we have down there. Any questions?
Good job.
Any questions? Justin, do you want to take, do we need a motion?
Yes.
Called by you. Second.
Frank and Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Next order of business, Finance Committee, Frank.
All right, Todd. Thank you. The approval of the terminal connector interest rate.
So we talked about this in depth, and I still have the date from last week, but we did update the numbers. If you remember, this kind of a recap, in June 3rd of 2021, we started the connector financing. It was a 2-year interest-only period during the construction phase. That was extended to the end of September, and now we have to pick a fixed term for the remainder part of the 8-year period that remains. So, and we have 8 options, obviously 1 year, but then you play you don't know what the interest rates are going to be beyond that 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, and I'll show you that going forward here. So we've got, right now we're paying 5.4%. We're only paying interest only. Actually, the last payment that we made that's due next week does include the first principal payment, but all of our other payments were based on a 5.4% interest rate. That ends. So right now we have a choice, and these are all updated as of today, though these would be our rates. So we talked about this in our committee meetings, but that call date over there is really something to keep in mind. So after 5 years, the bonds can be called by either the bank or us. So at that point, we could call the loan if we think we can get a better interest rate. Obviously, they're going to call it if the rates are higher at that point. So anything beyond 5 years is kind of doesn't really matter, because at that point we can we can cancel without penalty, and so can they. So, but we show it here because, again, these are 10-year kind of loans, and we did the first 2 years, and this would go out until 6/3/31. But again, that call period is 6/3/2028. So if the rates stay the same, I don't imagine either one of us is going to call, but we don't know, and obviously that option is there. But at the bottom there is really kind of mapping out what we kind of see going on, and there's different interest rates and some of the options there. But one of the things we wanted to talk about is kind of the emerging debt that was coming up. In 2025, you see down there, 2025, we have our 2015 bonds that are going to mature. So we're going to have to refinance those. And those are at 3 and 2, so obviously they're going to be a higher rate at that point. You also have the ones in 2018 that are maturing in 2028. Those are a little bit higher, but again, those are something that we didn't want all this debt maturing at the same time, because obviously there's a risk there that you could get burned if they're all renewed at the same time. So when you look at the options, again, even if you think rates are going to go down in the next year or two, are they going to go down below 6 is really the issue, and we didn't think it. So again, this just kind of gives you all of the kind of a mapping out over an 8-year period. And again, down there, I keep reminding everybody at the end of CARES is at the end of 2025 will be our last CARES period. So 2026 will be no CARES. 2024, as we go into budget, is a benchmark year. So what that means is when we go to refinance our bonds in 2025, they're going to use 2024 as kind of what's going on with you guys. So 2024, if we have a bad year, it could affect our financing for 2025. There's certain things we want to keep in mind as we go into budget season and all the things that are going on. And this is kind of like spelling out the difference in the interest cost. You can see these were all updated. And I think Michael brought it up that he thought that the interest rates would be proportional, and they aren't quite proportional. They're a little bit higher in the 6, 7, and 8. They're up, but not as much in the earlier ones. But again, you can see the difference. So 1 year, because everything on an apples-to-apples basis, 8-year versus a 1 year is $156,000 difference in debt service for next year's budget. Again, year 2, you can see the difference, 3. So that would be how much more cash-wise we would have to pay on our debt service if we go with the higher interest rate. Now, again, if you take the 7%, in theory, the rate could come in lower than the 5.96 next year, but that's a big risk. And we don't think it's going to come down much more than that. So why not just lock it in at the 5.96? Any questions on that? So this would be effective for 10/1, because again, our interest period, he must have heard me talking, so he's coming in as I'm talking about this stuff. They got our favorite banker coming in there now, and our chairman. So I'll wait for him so he can feel good about this if he wants to chime in. Hey, John. I was talking about the interest rates and some of the stuff here, and I said, oh, here comes our favorite banker. So, and I want to put this real quickly, but we talked about this in depth on last week. But again, it's really talking about the choices of the, and I'll go back just for, hi, Ann. Just kind of talking about what's going on with our financing options. Again, at the end of this month, 9/30, we have to make a choice. Our current interest rate is 5.4, and we have to choose between 1 to 8. Down at the bottom is kind of the storm, as I call it, of things that might be coming up. End of 2025 is the end of CARES. 2025 is when we have to refinance our 2015 debt. 2028 is when we have to refinance our 2018 debt. So talking about all the things that come into place, and we also talked about the call feature that kind of makes anything beyond 5 years, not as appealing as just taking the 8. And this is just the latest rates as of today, where we end up, that would be a 5.96, and we will lock it in today for an 8-year period. Again, we have a 5-year call period, which we could call it, and again, we would call it if the rates are lower. They're going to call it if the rates are higher. That's just the way it's going to go, and we can go from there. but we're paying, this is a pretty, little different than some of our current debt service, which is more level. This is $50,000 of principal every month, so it will be a sliding scale. So it's 600,000 of principal per year as we pay it down.
And these are current rates as of today because the bond market's moved
Yes,
dramatically.
they were
since
literally
the Fed meeting.
updated right before I came in.
Okay, great.
So, all right, and they went up, and it's a good point we brought up, they went up since last week.
Oh, since the Fed meeting.
So it's all, we want to get the most up to date, and again, we will lock in these rates. 5.96 is what we're recommending. So, any questions? Bless you.
Could you just repeat what the terms are when they can call it?
Let me go back here. So the call period there is 6/3/2028. So it's basically 5 years from,
5 years, okay, thanks.
well, actually 7 years from when we actually started. The loan was started 6/3/2022, 2021. We had 2-year interest only period during the construction phase. We extended that until the end of September because we were trying to finish up the final parts of the connector here. So we get all of our money and do it all at one time. So everything's still based on the 6/3. So 5 years from there, either one of us can call without penalty. So again, like I said, if the rates are higher, I don't think they're gonna go, you know what, we like you guys a lot. I know I can get 8% now, but you guys can stick at 6. Same thing with us. If the rates are 4 at that point, we're not gonna go, we like you guys, we're gonna wanna go with something lower. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions?
We need a motion?
Hand it back?
Yep.
No, I was just asking Glenn if you wanted to finish this up, then I'll take
a
it.
motion for approval of the terminal connector interest rate.
You made the motion, I second.
Mr. Brooks and Mike. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion. Next is the approval of the 2024 minimum municipal obligation.
I'm assuming that's still me, Justin.
That's you.
Oh, Frank. All right. So again, and just so you know, Paul, I did shrink this slide, so I won't be as busy.
That was busy, thank you.
I thought either one.
Shrunk it or took some numbers out?
Well, it's a lot of information. We spent a lot of time last week, but I
He's made it
did
smaller so
that.
you can't see it.
Make it really small. There you go. There you go. But every year in September, we do the minimum municipal obligation for the next year coming up. So this is for our minimum obligation for 2024. So this is kind of what we will pay on our pension plan. So this is for 2024, and you can kind of break the first two there are the defined benefit plans, the non-union and the union plans. You can see what those are here. There's some 401A plans, which are defined contribution plans. Those are also part of the MMO. And then we also have 401As for all the various ones. All the unions have various ones. All the non-union have 401A. And the only difference between the two is there's still defined contribution. 401A is employer money. That's the only difference. 457 on ours would be employee money. So all of our money is always in the 401A. All the employees' money is in the 457. It's still their money ultimately at some point, but our money goes into one bucket, theirs goes into another. It's just the way it is. And they have to be set up as two separate plans. So this is kind of giving a feel for where they are. Our union group does make a contribution, and we made some additional contributions on both the non-union and the firefighter, and that is for the groups that ended the defined benefit plan. We are making extra contributions into their defined contribution plan while we can. So if you ended it, instead of getting 6, which is most of them getting, they're getting 8, which is what they're getting for the groups that are in there. Okay, the police did add it, but they don't have anybody in there at this point. And you can just kind of see what's going on with the kind of comparing them back to 2016. And some of the things we talked about the cost of the pension plan, which is kind of the reason we've been pushing things to a defined contribution, not because we don't want to, but because obviously these things start to get really expensive. So you can kind of see what's going on there, over a 300% increase since 2016. And part of the reason that I think, and these are actually the contributions made, not necessarily the MMO. So when you remember last year, those little asterisks and that little sign there, they're kind of extra contributions that we made. By doing those extra contributions, it doesn't feel as bad when we go from 900 or 870 to 1.2, because it would have been like 600,000. So that delta is not nearly as bad because we made those extra contributions last year. So again, it's still a big increase, but not nearly as much as it would have been. For 2024, it does include the updated mortality tables and the 7.25% assumed interest rate. So again, that's also part of the reason that the funding levels get a little challenged as we go down. And this is just a letter that Tom puts together. The only thing that's not in this number that's different from the other ones is the extra contributions. Those are not mandated, everything. Any questions, concerns?
Just a couple of comments. This is one of the, in my opinion, one of the most important conversations we have on an annual basis. For the primary reasons, really twofold. Number one, we've made commitments to the people that work here. We want to make sure we've got the resources to honor those commitments. More importantly, number two, I've been in a situation, I know a couple of you have as well, where contributions to pension plans came up short, and it created very large amounts of pain in order to be able to meet the obligations. It's one of the reasons why we cut the assumed rate of return to 7.25. That puts more emphasis on making sure we've got assets in the plan, because you need more assets to cover your future obligations. So union, non-union alike, we've made commitments to the people. We want to make sure we've got the assets to back it up. So thank you for the work on that. And Todd and I would go back and forth in terms of the assumed rate of return, because his comeback would be voluntary contributions, and he's right. That's a good counterbalance. But that's also the group that we have now. This cutting the rate of return places a level of emphasis on this that I think is appropriate, especially with markets so disjointed right now. Yeah. Market's up, but last month it's been down. It's all over the place. Not a game we want to play.
And to piggyback on that, at one point we were at 8%. So we've become better stewards. And for people that don't speak pension, it's really, if you're trying to earn a rate of return, obviously a lower number makes it easier for you to do that.
No
so,
harder.
Well,
Number makes it
excuse
harder.
me. Well, it makes it easier for the pension to be funded.
Oh, to hit the number, yeah.
But again,
Right. Requires more
obviously it
assets.
means more assets.
More
So if
assets.
we're assuming 7, then if you get 8, that's a win. But if we assume 8 and we get 7, that's a loss.
What's our actual performance, Todd?
We, year to date, we were, through August, we were at 10%.
Oh, great.
Now,
September was not a
September
good
has been a
one.
little brutal, but through August, we've been, so.
So we're well.
So again, if you think about our plan, at the end of last year, I believe between the both plans, we were about 89%. So if we are higher than the 7.25 that we talked about, well, actually, that would be 7.5 for this year, next year is 7.25. We're higher than 7.5 this year. That means that funding level will automatically go up higher because we're doing better than we assumed. So that's why it's good to have a lower number, even though it costs more. It means that it's more stable, as John pointed out.
Great, thank you.
So we're at 7.25. Do we have a goal of getting to 7?
I do. John does. Yeah, I know. I was waiting for John to make his impassioned plea to go to 7.
If you look at the market from a true historical perspective, you should be below 7. Yeah. So, but no, the voluntary contributions do play a significant role in balancing that out, but I do recognize that, and we've done that for years.
Right.
So that, yeah, that's not something that is new. So that is a good counterweight.
And the other part of that is part of the reason we're at 89, where other funds, because last year, I believe we were at 110?
We were north of 100 already.
We were 110, but you can see how quickly the market had a really bad year. We went from 110 down to 89. We would not be at 89 without those additional contributions that we've made over the last, 5-6 years. That's really helped us maintain a pretty good level despite the turbulence of the market.
Okay. When you have the vote, you want to hand it back?
You can hand it back to the
Okay.
chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of the approval of the 2024 MMO obligation, I can't think of the word.
Yes.
Indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Todd, thank you. Okay, anything else for the Finance Committee, Frank?
No, not here, that's okay.
Thank you, appreciate it. Okay, move into the Exec Committee section. We have two items that I think our council will handle.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So Solicitor Marcon, I'll turn it over to you for the amendment to Resolution 2358, the Conflict of Interest Policy.
Yes, so we went over this in committee, and you can see in red are the new changes since we last looked at these, and then in blue, purple, depending how you see it, those are the old changes that we already reviewed and agreed to. And so the definition of affected persons is now going to also include supervisory employees in the position to make purchasing decisions on behalf of the authority. So those folks are automatically put into this affected persons category. We still need the catch-all for the director to be able to place someone in that category depending on maybe a temporary role that they may find themselves in. And then as we scroll down, we also added in, so again, all the blue is previous ads. Here in section 3, then we did discuss making sure the vice chair is responsible for all the duties that the chair would have in the event that the chair is the person with the conflict. Same concept here. Any potential conflicts involving the chair, the vice chair will have the discretion to compel the chair to withdraw from participation in that portion of the meeting that the conflict refers to.
What if they both are conflicted? I know it'd be rare, but.
Yeah, it would be exceedingly rare, but then I think it would just go down
Down
to the officers. Okay, so those are the changes and a motion to approve them to amend that resolution.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the Conflict of Interest. Motion by Paul, second by Justin. Discussion. Good addition since the last one. I think that captures it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes it better. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is the bylaws amendment for Article 18.
Again, we have the old changes here in blue. We had moved the definitions to within the bylaws provision and to the top. We're looking at neutral language and also trying to get rid of some legalese. Those are changes we discussed before.
And for those who weren't here, the judge and I would go back and forth on this regarding the legal definition of shall and how that has been, in my opinion, subverted over the years. So changed it to must so that it's clear.
Yeah, I think I take a more modern view of the meaning of shall, and there are instances where it actually creates ambiguities rather than making things more clear.
It's the worst word I have in any contracts.
Yeah.
Shall.
Yeah, particularly where there's a negative, and then you don't know if it's compelling something or allowing something. So we've also discussed cleaning that up throughout the bylaws as an overall project. Okay, so here we have the same issue we addressed in the resolution, that the vice chair is responsible for carrying out the duties as to the chair when the chair has a conflict. Now, I think that's it in here because we didn't have to address any other changes.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the bylaws amendment to Article 18. Motion by Mike, second by Bobby. Any additional discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And this required.
This requires a 2/3 vote. I
Oh,
didn't
we
hear
should.
any nays.
Okay, then we should vote. Did anyone vote nay?
No.
Okay, so we broke it. Okay, perfect. Okay. Then last under the executive committee report today is executive director and solicitor solicitations, evaluations. Not solicitations.
I am selling Girl Scout cookies.
That was quick. So no, evaluations. Everyone, Sylvette sent out the email last Friday, was it, I think? So you have the evaluation forms. I don't see Jeff Maskin here. I got his already, so is he on the horn?
I think so.
Jeff, are you there?
He was, I believe. I mean, yeah.
Oh, okay. Jeff wins. He got the first ones in. So get those over to me, email them to me. Same drill that we went through last year. We'll consolidate into one doc with everyone's comments, go through those as a group, and then sit down with Solicitor Marcon and with Tom to go over all those.
I try and get it right this time.
It led to good conversation, no worries. Absolutely. So any questions on the executive director or solicitor evaluations? Okay, that ends my report. Tom, director's report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. We talked a little bit about August numbers, just in terms of September throughput nationally through checkpoints. September numbers are up 8.6% over last September, sort of month over month. Here at ABE, we're up 10.8%. So a little bit better than the national average, which is nice to see. In terms of looking at our October scheduled seats, those are actually up 14.7% over last October. Nationally, October seats are up about 10%. So again, trending a little bit better than the national average. If we look at cargo, take our attention to cargo, it's another record month for air cargo. So August now makes that 12 consecutive months of record air cargo at ABEs, going back to September of last year. So good to see the strong growth there.
Do you envision any time in the near future having to build another pad?
Yes.
Ouch.
Did I
Okay.
take a while to think about that?
Yeah, you thought about that for a long time, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just for those who weren't here a few years ago when we built it, it was 6 million?
Yeah, I don't know if we have the five and a half.
What's it now? I'm French.
Yeah. For sure, it's a lot of money to build a pad to park a cargo.
Yeah, and at this point, we're constrained, so we'd have to look on the north side for that. But
We get FAA money to help with something like that? Okay.
Save money by leaving out the pizza.
we could.
If they have any money.
Pepperoni gives you extra traction though, Frank, so. Wow. All right. Since our last meeting of August 29th, on the 30th of August, we opened our new connector. Everything is running smoothly there, so we're happy to have that in place. September 12th, we unveiled an Arts Quest mural out in the tunnel, in the public parking tunnel. A lot of fun there, thanks to our muralist, Matt Hom. Arts Quest and the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts, they were great partners on all of that, so we thank them. On September 14th, the Volunteer Appreciation Picnic. Glenn, we missed you there with Sherman, but I know it was certainly great to see all of our volunteers, our co-programs, some of the canines that we have in that program, really just thanking everyone for their participation in that program. September 17th, we had our 9th annual polo match over at Braden Air Park. So I think, what did we have? Over 600 attendees there. So it was a great turnout. Again, sponsored by Equilibrium, so can continue to have a great partnership with them at that event.
Have we ever thought about doing, since it's that popular, doing one in Queen City as well? Or do we not have the right?
You probably don't have the right space for that. You're fortunate in a sense there that you have so much level green turf area over there.
Okay.
And I think that really lends itself
Oh,
well.
awesome.
What does Equilibrium take in from an event like this?
I really don't know the numbers, Frank, in terms of what they generate. All the proceeds go towards, their mission, but I don't know what those numbers look like.
And it was a record attendance and, bless you, and record fundraising for it. I don't know what the dollar amount is, but it was their best year ever.
Yeah.
And they're a small not-for-profit.
On the 21st of September, we completed the pavement renovation on our arrivals and departures roadways, so apologize for any inconvenience for that, but we should be in great shape. On the 23rd, we celebrated Girls in Aviation Day. We have our Women in Aviation Day in March, Girls in Aviation Day in September, so it was great to do a small event for that. In terms of upcoming events, September 30th, we have our eye on the anticipated lack of funding for the FAA and the TSA as we approach a shutdown or a potential shutdown. Again, the FAA traffic, all of the TSA screening personnel will continue to work without pay. This sounds reminiscent of 2018 and 2019 when we went through something similar. We hope we don't get there, but I'm not seeing a ton of good news pumping out of Washington at the moment, so we're keeping our eyes on that. October 2nd through the 6th is our next Customer Appreciation Week and our next TSA PreCheck open enrollment. So we did distribute some information on that if folks are looking for the PreCheck. On October 7th, we have our plane pull. Justin, I think your group has
Boys are in training right now.
they're in training? Okay, excellent.
Shut down job sites.
Special Olympics Pennsylvania and FedEx are working. I think we have about 20 teams registered on the site when I counted it this morning. So more information at lvplainpole.org if folks are still interested.
You start with a skid loader and work your way up.
Listen, we have a couple big horses. Paul and I are just gonna be there for our looks. There's other people coming.
Yes.
Now you're in trouble. You guys are there for your looks.
October 9th through the 11th, Aviation Council of Pennsylvania will hold their annual conference, their state conference at the Hotel Bethlehem. Keynote speaker will be Mike Carroll, Secretary of PennDOT, will be out to kick off the event. The 9th through the 13th of October is Fire Prevention Week, so working with our customer service and experience team, we have our fire department set up for the week out in the departure building and greeting some folks. We have some handouts and some other information, so I think folks will enjoy that. On the 14th of October, we're participating in Northampton County's festival over in Easton, so we'll be over there with a booth and just providing some information about the airport, so a nice little event. And October 21st, we'll be at Barktoberfest at the Promenade Shops, all things canine. We'll be there to promote our COPE program. Not sure if Sherman's available, but some of our COPE dogs will be there. And we're looking forward to meeting the community and talking a little bit about our programs there as well. So that concludes my report, Mr. Chair. Happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Any questions for Tom? I just had one, the event at Hotel Bethlehem.
Yes.
You were going to check the agenda and see if there was anything that you thought we might be able to gain something from.
I don't know that
As
it's going to
directors.
fit well for our board. It's really airport operations and airport planning focus on these types of conferences. Folks are certainly welcome to attend. We do have the kickoff is we sponsor Oktoberfest every year, and so the kickoff is actually on a day that the Oktoberfest is closed. We're going to bring folks together Monday evening on the 9th and raise some money for our aviation education program. So we have some basket raffles and other things going on. Folks are certainly welcome to come out Monday evening. We can send that information out if you're looking to be part of that. Might be a nice little fun event, but in terms of the sessions, I'm not sure that there'd be a lot of helpful information.
We'll send the information out on Monday night.
Okay.
Okay, and then the only other question I had was, any indication from Allegiant yet as to the bookings for Melbourne when that launches in November?
I don't know.
Have we heard anything?
I would kind of look down towards Connie or Darren. I don't know if we've seen any numbers or heard any
They're
information.
doing okay. They're not fantastic.
It's not Denver?
No, it's not Denver. Nothing has ever been Denver, though.
Yeah.
I mean, and our Florida markets have always been a little slower to mature than Denver was, for sure, and than most markets are really. So I think anything to be concerned about, but, they're doing okay, but not fantastic yet. So
How's Denver continuing to do?
it's amazing. It's crazy.
Good.
Larry?
Tom, I just had a question. Do we have anything on the horizon that possibly could affect our bookings, either additional service or deletion of service or equipment change? Is there anything?
I mean, the one thing we talked about previously was the fact that Allegiant is working to transition to adding some Boeing aircraft into their all Airbus fleet. As part of that process, they will need to pull some of our pilots, the flight crew members for Allegiant, as well as mechanics offline for additional training. When they do that, obviously it takes folks out of the system to fly and maintain aircraft. So that could have an effect. We haven't really seen that at this point, but they're looking to start bringing some of those Boeing aircraft online. I think some of the orders were delayed, so that'll start over the next few months to start bringing those aircraft into the system. From what we heard from Allegiant, I don't know that we'll see scheduled Boeing service here, but that's still a possibility that we'll see the aircraft here. So, sure.
Other questions for Tom?
Just a comment. So at yesterday's Chamber Board of Governors meeting, there was a report on the mission to Puerto Rico that
Yes.
Mayor Turk went on, AJ, our Hispanic Chamber Chair, and the guy from the radio station, Victor. And Tom was urged to get us a flight to San Juan.
Yes.
Well, the three I hear are San Juan, Boston, and Vegas.
Got it.
Yeah.
Yep. And still on the list, so we're still having good conversations on those.
Okay, other questions or comments? Tom, thanks, good report. Solicitor Marcon, your report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So you're keeping me very busy, and my office, my team very busy, but not a whole lot to report. Again, it's just sort of general things that we help out with, leasing. We've responded to some right-to-know law requests. If you want to know specifically what those are about, I can answer questions about those. We have some follow-up on outstanding items for the Rockefeller parcels. That will be occurring in the next couple weeks. So there'll be a report, after that. Again, it's just sort of cleaning up some outstanding items. And then the stormwater case, the Westchester case, there's
Egregious stormwater tax.
the egregious
I'll beat
stormwater.
John to it.
Thank you, Mike.
So in that case, the appellee, Westchester University Council, asked for a further extension to submit her brief. So our amicus is due at the same time as hers, which is now mid-October. So we're still finalizing that, but that's also going to delay any decision by the Supreme Court. So I'll keep you updated on the timeline there as that, directly impacts our case in Lehigh County.
Thank you, Solicitor Marcon. Any questions? Okay, thank you. Anybody have any new business to bring before the Board of Governors today? Mike?
I don't know if it's new business, but I brought it up before. I think it's time for us to start thinking about, in 2024, planning some kind of a board retreat. We've got the connector open. We're talking about parking garage, but we need to be looking forward. And I think 2024 is a good time to start thinking about that. The last time we did it was, I had just come on board in 2019, so. No, it was at the ski area of Blue Mountain.
Oh, that's right, okay.
And that was the last time we did it.
Yep.
So I think
We are due.
I think we're due. So we ought to be thinking about that.
Yeah, we are collecting pricing for that, and so that'll be in the budget that we talk about in November.
Okay. Yeah, we should. That's a good idea. Okay, thanks, Mike. Any other new business? Do we have a need for executive session? Okay, does anyone have a need, they think, for executive session? Okay, entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion, Mike, we're good.